Did you ever wonder what's really going on inside Dexter Morgan's twisted mind? Think about this. Dexter isn't just a killer with a strict moral code, he's literally mentally disabled. Yeah, you heard that right. Dexter's brain isn't just wired differently, it's severely broken. But how broken are we talking? And could that explain everything he's ever done? Buckle up, because today we're diving deep into Dexter's psychological profile. And trust me, what you'll find here will change how you see Dexter forever. Let's start with the obvious. Dexter is a psychopath. But wait, what does being a psychopath actually mean? Psychopathy isn't just being a bad person. It's a legitimate neurological condition where the brain literally lacks the capacity for genuine empathy. And Dexter himself said it perfectly. "I fake all human interactions. I'm empty inside." Dexter doesn't just lack empathy. He's neurologically incapable of feeling guilt, remorse, or love in the way you and I do. That's why he describes himself as feeling empty. So, if Dexter is neurologically incapable of empathy, was he ever truly responsible for his actions? Or was he simply playing the cards biology dealt him? You might think it all started when Dexter witnessed his mother's gruesome murder in that shipping container. But here's something most fans overlook. Severe trauma alone doesn't make someone a psychopath. It triggers what's already there genetically. Experts say that trauma merely unlocks psychopathic tendencies. Dexter himself admitted, "I was born in blood." He wasn't just traumatized, he was genetically predisposed to darkness. Here's the question nobody dares ask. If Harry had never taught Dexter the code, would Dexter have become even more violent and chaotic, or would he have turned out completely different? The dark passenger isn't just a cool metaphor, it's an actual symptom psychologists call dissociative depersonalization. Dexter distances himself psychologically from his urges, creating a passenger to avoid responsibility. In Dexter's own chilling words, "I'm not responsible, the passenger takes control." This isn't poetic, it's a dangerous coping mechanism real-world killers also use. But does Dexter genuinely believe his own lies? Or is this just an elaborate self-deception, a delusion he constructed to justify his actions? The line between truth and delusion for Dexter is dangerously thin, and maybe that's the point. According to forensic psychologist Dr. Catherine Ramsland, dissociative depersonalization commonly manifests when individuals commit horrific acts they cannot consciously accept, allowing them to psychologically distance themselves from guilt. In fact, notorious serial killer Ted Bundy similarly described an internal entity that took over during his crimes, eerily mirroring Dexter's passenger. This psychological distancing isn't just about avoiding guilt, it's a deeply rooted self-preservation tactic, enabling Dexter to function daily as a respected blood spatter analyst without collapsing mentally. So here's the critical insight. Perhaps Dexter's greatest skill isn't killing, but his exceptional ability to maintain his sanity through systematic self-deception. Could Dexter's carefully crafted passenger be the very thing holding his fractured mind together? Think of Dexter's closest relationships: Rita, Deborah, Harrison. Each relationship reveals how Dexter's psychological disability impacts his interactions. Dexter once confessed, "I chose Rita because she was damaged like me." He wasn't seeking love, he sought camouflage. Yet surprisingly, Dexter occasionally showed real care, especially for Harrison. Here's the paradox. How could Dexter genuinely love his son, yet be neurologically incapable of empathy? According to psychologists, psychopaths often form attachments that mimic genuine affection, driven by a powerful instinct to preserve their genetic lineage rather than true emotional connection. This means Dexter's love for Harrison could be deeply primal rather than emotionally authentic. Dr. James Fallon, a neuroscientist specializing in psychopathy, notes that psychopaths experience a form of selective empathy, brief emotional flickers triggered by self-interest rather than true connection. Is Dexter's attachment to Harrison merely self-serving instinct, or a glimpse into an unexpected humanity hidden within his broken mind? Here's where it gets fascinating. Scientists studying psychopaths have discovered something shocking. MRI scans actually show clear differences in their brains, especially in an area called the frontal lobe. This part of the brain controls emotions, impulse control, and empathy. So Dexter's lack of empathy isn't just his personality, it's literally how his brain is wired. He couldn't choose empathy even if he wanted to. Think about what this means. If Dexter's behavior is controlled by biology rather than by his own free will, should we feel sorry for him instead of hating him? Or is the idea of Dexter as a biological machine incapable of empathy actually much scarier? It makes you wonder if Dexter ever truly had a chance to be different. If he was born with a brain that makes killing easier than caring, does that make Dexter more frightening, or does it force us to reconsider judging him at all? Harry's code wasn't just a set of rules. It changed Dexter's entire way of thinking. Harry taught Dexter to control his deadly urges by killing only people who deserved it. But without realizing, he also convinced Dexter he was permanently damaged. Dexter himself explained this clearly when he said, "Harry gave me a code, but he also made me believe I was irreparably broken." Think about this for a moment. By teaching Dexter how to hide in plain sight, Harry accidentally reinforced Dexter's feeling of isolation. Instead of seeking help or trying to connect with others, Dexter grew up believing his dark urges could never be fixed. Experts even suggest Harry's method created an unhealthy identity for Dexter, making him think being a killer was his only path. Imagine if Harry had encouraged Dexter to express his struggles openly. Could Dexter have learned empathy, or at least how to manage his urges differently? Some psychologists argue Dexter was never given a real chance at normal life because Harry's code locked him into the belief he was fundamentally broken. So here's the critical question. Did Harry's code save Dexter, or did it doom him to a lifetime of controlled violence, preventing him from ever truly changing? Let's face it, Dexter's fans root for a serial killer. Ever wonder why you secretly cheer for a mentally disabled psychopath? Psychologists have a surprising explanation for this. They call it moral disengagement, a fancy way of saying we convince ourselves Dexter's actions are justified because he only targets other criminals. Dexter himself captures this internal confusion perfectly when he says, "Am I good or am I bad? Sometimes I don't even know." But let's dive even deeper. Why do we feel so connected to Dexter? Someone who openly admits he's empty inside? Experts believe we identify with Dexter because deep down, everyone struggles with hidden desires, impulses, or darker thoughts. Watching Dexter lets us safely explore these forbidden parts of ourselves without actually crossing the line. It's like our brains secretly enjoy being close to darkness, as long as we're watching it through someone else's eyes. Here's something even more unsettling to think about. Does your fascination with Dexter reveal something troubling about your own psychology? Could it mean there's a small part of you that's drawn to chaos, or do you simply enjoy the thrill of walking right up to the edge of morality without stepping over it? Real forensic psychologists have weighed in on Dexter. Dr. Kevin Dutton famously said, "Dexter is an almost perfect textbook psychopath, intelligent, manipulative, and utterly lacking true empathy." Another expert, Dr. Ramani Durvasula, adds another chilling layer. Dexter's charm isn't accidental. It's calculated psychopathy in action. In other words, every awkward smile, every kind gesture, every carefully chosen word isn't genuine. It's a carefully crafted performance. Dexter isn't just pretending to blend in. He's mastered it. But here's the twist that makes Dexter even more fascinating and terrifying. Psychologists have noticed that Dexter is strangely self-aware for a psychopath. Typically, psychopaths are completely blind to their own emotional emptiness, living life without realizing they're different. Dexter, however, fully understands his condition, openly calling himself a monster. This rare insight makes Dexter even more human because it suggests he's painfully aware of his own brokenness. And yet, it also makes him scarier because it means every action he takes, every murder, every manipulation, is fully conscious and intentional. So here's a disturbing question for you. Does Dexter's unusual self-awareness make him less dangerous because he can control himself? Or more dangerous because he's actively choosing to stay this way? Here's a hypothetical question for you. Could Dexter have been treated successfully? Therapists argue genuine psychopaths rarely improve through therapy because their condition is neurological, not psychological. Dexter himself once dismissed therapy, saying, "Therapists would only see through my mask." If therapy was off the table, was Dexter always doomed to his disorder? Or could a different environment have altered his path entirely? Dexter's story boils down to the age-old debate: nature versus nurture. Was Dexter born to be a killer, or was he created? Dexter believes he was born in blood, but Harry's influence clearly directed his urges. But let's step deeper into this mystery. Studies show that people with psychopathic traits often have genetic predispositions, meaning Dexter may indeed have been biologically wired to kill. Yet, psychologists also emphasize that environment matters just as much. Harry, with his strict code, didn't just guide Dexter, he molded him into a very specific kind of predator, one who only hunted other monsters. Without Harry's influence, Dexter might have unleashed his dark impulses randomly, becoming far more dangerous. On the other hand, could a different environment, perhaps more understanding, compassionate, or therapeutic, have steered Dexter towards a healthier path, one without bloodshed? The unsettling truth is that Dexter's life is the perfect collision between biology and environment. His genes gave him the desire for violence, but the people around him shaped how he expressed it. So consider this carefully. Was Dexter's destiny truly inevitable from birth, or did the people in his life, Harry in particular, trap him forever in darkness? Would Dexter still have become a killer if Harry had simply chosen differently? Here's the powerful truth about Dexter Morgan. He's mentally disabled not just psychologically, but neurologically. Dexter isn't simply broken, his brain structure itself is different. This means his actions aren't fully under his control, yet they're disturbingly calculated. He's a complex product of genetics, horrific trauma, and the twisted mentorship of Harry, someone who tried to save him but unintentionally trapped him deeper into darkness. Strangely enough, this blend of tragedy and horror is exactly what draws us in. Dexter is the ultimate paradox. He's the monster we feel sorry for, the killer we secretly root for, and the psychopath we can somehow forgive. But here's the uncomfortable twist. Maybe Dexter's greatest manipulation wasn't against his victims, but against us, the viewers. Could Dexter's self-awareness, his openness about feeling broken, actually be the perfect psychological trick? By admitting he's damaged, Dexter gains our sympathy, ensuring we never truly hold him accountable. So think carefully. Is Dexter Morgan truly just a victim of biology and trauma, unable to control himself? Or is he an incredibly skilled manipulator who convinced us all to believe his helplessness, allowing him to continue killing, guilt-free, right before our eyes? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you made it this far, congrats. You clearly have a dark passenger of your own, always craving the next deep dive into Dexter's mind. So why not make it official? Subscribe and join the dark side. No code required. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.